9 p.m. on 104.6 Planet.
Property Matters, proudly brought to you by Barfoot and Thompson.
On the show today, we have the fabulous Olivia McIver from social media marketing company Done.By to chat all things social media. Welcome to Property Matters. Welcome along to another Monday. It's our last Monday before daylight savings ends, which is always that feeling that winter is coming. So make the most of it this week. Head out, do those walks, do those last minute things in the garden while we still can before that evening daylight disappears. Now, really excited this week to bring on a very different guest to our show to chat all about the world of social media. Now, some may find it scary, but Olivia's going to make it easy and calming and reflective. No pressure, Olivia. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. And I should say from the outset, we've actually just recently engaged Olivia and the team to do all our social media. So if you're listening today because you've spotted it out there, that's thanks to Olivia and the team. But first of all, let's go back. Let's unpack. What is your career journey? When did it all begin?
That's a good question. My career journey has been quite unorthodox, I'd say, especially landing in the marketing space. I actually started my career in military when I was very young, and that was cut short due to a traumatic brain injury. So I had a medical stand down from the military. The injury was not military related, by the way.
That could have been a really good story. Like we were heading towards something massive.
It's not as juicy as you think. It's quite juicy, but So
we won't do that today.
Maybe another day. So I had a medical stand down for about 7 years. So I couldn't reapply for 7 years. And at the age of 18, I thought my life is over. I'm not going to go anywhere. My career is done. And I had a long recovery with that brain injury. During that time, I had to reestablish myself and sort of see where I'd land. And just through like a family friend, that classic old story, I was made aware of marketing on Facebook at the time. So this was quite a while ago, and that's when Facebook ads were quite new. So, I mean, my brain injury was quite bad. Like, I couldn't stay awake for long durations of time. But when I did, I started to do an online course on Facebook ads.
Cool.
And I learned about the world of using social media as a business and to market rather than a consumer. And I kind of fell into marketing, and I got a job at an agency and worked at a few agencies. The last few I worked at were quite unethical, so I decided to go out on my own when I was 21, which, now that I think back, was just so naive and I was delusional. But here we are now, almost 7 years later.
Brilliant. So who or what is Done.By? Is it all done by Olivia, or is there other people in your team?
Definitely other people on the team. Social media is a very, very busy space, so I couldn't do it all on my own. So Done.By, actually the original brand that I started with was called Soda Digital, which is quite funny to me. I was called the Head Fizzer. It was a very young brand. It definitely reflected my 21-year-old self. A couple of years ago, we rebranded to Done.By. So essentially what we do is we manage brand social media for them. Social media is a real pain point when it comes to marketing, especially managing it in-house. I do have a team, and actually for one client, we require every member of the team. There is a lot of moving parts, but our service is split into two, so we either do it as Done By You, that's our capability and consulting section of the business, and then we have Done By Us, which is where we do that for you. So we manage your strategy and we manage your organic management and paid.
Cool. So, I guess, and you've kind of answered it by that. People can sort of dabble a little bit into their own social media, but involve experts to help with that if they don't want to give it all up, or they can go, I don't want any of this, hand it over.
Yeah, I think there is value in doing both, and there's definitely brands and businesses where that suits a lot better. Like, for example, we work with a lot of trades-based clients, and we'll go out to their toolbox meetings, we'll go on site just to generate content. It's a lot of work. Where we have a client at the moment, they have quite a big Sparky company, and he's just brought his daughter in, so we're doing some training with her. We manage all of their strategy and campaigns, but actually, if he could bring that resource in-house, it'd probably save him money and us a lot of time.
That's cool. You mentioned your online course, which was, back in what I would call the simple Facebook days, when social media really kicked off, was just Facebook. I was involved running a Chinese early childhood education company, so I got quickly introduced to WeChat, which was the Asian version of Facebook. But for me, that was kind of all I knew. Now we've got so much. Do you think we've progressed in a good way, or would you like to go back to what it was like when you were doing that online course?
Gosh, if I think back to then, that was happy days for me. Like, I could put out honestly, the ads I was putting out looked terrible, but they worked every single time. It was easier times. However, now there is so much fun you can have with it. The space is so dynamic, and I think that's actually a really cool thing. But it is really about understanding a brand and then making sure you're really strategic with what you do and execute for that brand. I think potency really works on social media. When you try and do everything, it doesn't land. So it is a very busy, involved space, and it's shifted a lot recently.
Absolutely. What do you love the most about this job?
It's so different. We work with a real range of clients. Like, we could be telling the story of a founder who's founded some really great charity, all the way to selling big farming agricultural machinery. Like, it varies so much every day. Also, I mean, what the social media algorithm was yesterday versus today is different. So yeah, I think no 2 day is the same, and it's just a very fast-paced space, which means that you never get bored.
All right, time to unpack the giants out there. Talk us, through each different key social media platform. And I guess what I'm interested is, from a marketing perspective, what ones attract which audience? What should you be using, say, TikTok versus Facebook, etc., etc. Talk us through the giants. Yeah,
the giants. So one thing you need to know about the giants is they're all very selfish beasts, so they kind of work in silos. Aside from Meta, that obviously is Instagram and Facebook, they work together, but you need to look at them as silos, because they don't like cross-promotion. TikTok is obviously a topical one at the moment. It is a pain in the to manage for brands in-house, and I understand that, but TikTok is a platform that should definitely be focused on by every brand, and I can kind of go into how you do that maybe later in the episode. Yes, the audience is a little bit younger, but that audience is only going to get older, and there's been a massive uptake of TikTok by older demographics. So don't discount TikTok. Well, it's interesting you say that, because last night I do a music and art show on here on a Sunday night, and we had a guest come in who had 1.9 million followers on TikTok. His last post on TikTok reached 1.6 engagement, likes, shares, etc. Just a Kiwi artist here in New Zealand. Instagram, Facebook, etc. was all under 100,000. Yeah. So we're talking 1 million difference on TikTok. And we had previous guests in the show that we mentioned this person was coming. Did you know him? Oh yeah, he's the TikTok sensation. Yeah, an old man here was going, oh, weren't you? Okay, quickly watching TikToks. But yeah, it goes to show that, that is still such a powerful tool. Oh, it is. And I think TikTok is a place that has the most incredible sub-communities. And if you have a sub-community that your brand fits into, it is a really strong place. And don't discount the age. We did a launch for quite a popular gardening product here in New Zealand, Tui Gardens. They wanted to actually sort of get in front of a younger audience, but we launched their TikTok with them, and honestly it's an older audience that are all engaging, so they're on there. And TikToks are popping up as reels on Facebook and Instagram, and other people are sharing them in other places anyway, so you're getting that cross-pollination almost, aren't you? Yeah, definitely. And I'd look at TikTok as, every social media channel, the interface has completely changed to cater to short form content, and TikTok was a catalyst for that. So you need to recognize that TikTok is the leader, and other channels, big giants like Meta and Instagram, are following suit. Coming through to Meta and Instagram, they obviously still have market share. They have a very broad range of people that you can target and an unmatched data pool. So if you are wanting to market on Facebook or Instagram, it is still a really great place to do so, and you can kind of guarantee you're going to get anyone from Madagascar that's 90 years old on there, and it is the best place still to run ads from. Okay, so we'll
TikTok, Facebook, we kind of know. Where does Instagram sit in this world now?
Instagram sits in a really nice pocket, actually. I'd say Instagram has got a really good balance between content and ads, and that's where most of our clients play at the moment. It's kind of like the hybrid of TikTok and Facebook.
It's a good way of summing it up. It used to be like when it first came out, it was all about the image far more than Facebook. Facebook, you could still post a whole lot of text, but Instagram was about the photo. Is it still that, or is it now more about the video rather than the photo?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely going towards video, just off the back of TikTok.
Yeah.
You look at the interface and how it's working now, even like all the formats, it's all catering to video and reels. But it still has a strong space for photos and static as well. So don't discount those.
You're probably too young to remember Vines.
I know Vines.
Vines,
Yeah.
that used to be that was like the first sort of take on all of this, these short 7 or 9 second videos.
Yeah, Vine's a big one. And then you've got like LinkedIn, which is a completely different platform altogether. And I think LinkedIn really has its place in this space. It really does. It's got its own sort of user base. There is actually talk at the moment of there being too many blurred lines on LinkedIn, where there's like a real crossover of professionalism and maybe not so much professionalism.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that because when LinkedIn first came out, it was kind of, if you don't want to hear or see what someone's having for breakfast or lunch, come to LinkedIn, because we're going to only talk business, professional. We're not interested in what your cat's doing. But now it's started to blur. We're celebrating birthdays on there and things like that we weren't. The thing I find interesting and a bit of a question is the whole followers. So on Facebook, my rule is, if I'm not going to meet them for a cup of tea or a wine at any point, if I wouldn't meet them for a cup of tea or wine, I don't want them as my Facebook friend. Then I feel safe to share on Facebook anything I would share with anyone that I'd have a cup of tea or a wine with. That's my rule. LinkedIn, though, you get so many requests from all around the world from people who are mutual friends of mutual connections. What should people's rule be? Like, do we just say, okay, yes, and then only promote business on there? Or for me, it's like, well, it's got to be kind of connected to my industry that I'm working in?
Yeah, I'm pretty savage on LinkedIn.
Are you?
Yeah, I feel like unless I see some relevance or synergies between what we're doing, or I see them as a bit of a thought leader or content that I could get something from, I won't accept the connection or I won't connect with someone. And also, everyone experiences it on LinkedIn. You just get a whole lot of junk spam messages, and I think from what I know, LinkedIn are doing a lot to clean up that space and just reduce that spam, because it does actually impact your experience on the platform. I will say though, like if you think about it, LinkedIn is one of those channels that you can literally search for key stakeholders and connect with them. It is very powerful in that sense. So if you're intentional with it, you can do a lot with LinkedIn. Like we manage personal brands, like people's LinkedIn profiles for them,
right?
Which is like not a service I overly promote, but here I am saying it on a podcast.
But that is good because some people just don't have the time or interest, but know that it's a tool that they should be using.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So like, for example, we have a client that's in the clinical trial space and they wanted to connect with global CROs. So they had to be of certain job titles within certain countries or regions, and they had to be part of a clinical research organization. Like where else can you find that kind of data? Like you're not going to be able to find that on Facebook because one, it's a personal profile and that's breaking down probably a barrier that people don't want to be connected on. But also, I know with my profile, you probably won't know that I am the director of a marketing company on my Facebook profile because it's quite personal. LinkedIn, you can be very specific.
Very business, yeah. LinkedIn seems to be getting more and more targeted advertising through your inbox, like they're emailing the message bit, which would be like getting an advert through Messenger on Facebook. So rather than ad in the feed, that annoys me.
Yeah.
Because then I'm getting the alert that I've got a message and it's from Auckland University telling me I should do a totally irrelevant course.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Honestly, when we do LinkedIn ads, which they are quite expensive to run, so it's for a good reason. If we are doing them, we always turn off that placement because I think with ads, like you need to be showing up and building up touch points in a newsfeed. The moment that you enter someone's inbox, like it better be a really good touch point or you're actually tarnishing your brand. Yeah.
Okay. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. Dare I say, please tell me the answer is no. Is Snapchat any good from a business point of view?
Honestly, we don't use Snapchat at all.
Hooray.
Yeah.
Excellent. I've seen one person try to use it for their business, but trying to keep up with it. And I'm like, but your images are disappearing, so it's not good brand. That's good. We won't even go further.
I would say Snapchat is more of a content carnival than TikTok, but the other channels that I would say is Pinterest. If you are listening and you are in the construction, home improvement space, there's other categories on Pinterest that are popular as well. But for some of our clients that are in that space, you must be on Pinterest, because I guarantee you ask anyone that's doing a renovation, they are on Pinterest looking for inspiration and pinning. So if you're showing up there, it's the perfect place to be.
Great. Hadn't thought about that. That is definitely something new to add to the toolbox. WeChat's still very big, obviously, especially in the Chinese market, because Facebook is banned over there. Kind of navigating that similar to Facebook, do you? Sort of posts on there similar?
Yeah, we have. I mean, in the property space, it's obviously quite a strong place to be, but WeChat does require, knowledge. Ideally, you do have, like the language component to it. It's a difficult one for us to manage, but there are companies out there that we can use if we need WeChat.
Right.
But then I'd say the last channel that we do use is Google Business, and that is the most underrated place to be.
Tell us.
Well, it's essentially like when you Google, say, Thai restaurant, and it comes up, and it's the one that shows up on the right-hand side. Yeah, that's got the picture and then the direct link to websites. You can see the reviews. If you're not on there, you're doing yourself a real disservice. Like, it's in terms of discoverability, your Google Business profile is really important, and it's so easy to set up. It helps out everything. SEO, credibility if people are looking for reviews.
And it's important to make sure that stays up to date, isn't it? Nothing worse than someone rocking up in your clothes because the hours haven't been updated, that you no longer do Sundays, or that is something that you need to be managing.
Yeah, definitely. Managing, it's not as intensive as some of these other social profiles, but yeah, you do have to manage them all.
Put all the tools in there. So what's a common misconception people have about social media marketing? Many
misconceptions, but I think, I talked to my nan and my nan's friends about it, and obviously how they see social media is very different to how I see social media. I understand that it can be seen as a very shallow place. But I don't think people quite realize the true impact that social media can have for good. So that's really important to us, is that we are using it for good, or we're only working with brands that have something of value to share or a genuine story. But in terms of charities, etc., I know many charities that would not survive without the support and community that they have on social media. So people see it as a shallow thing. Therefore, the follow-on from that is that I think when you look at social media as a marketing platform, I think people sort of steer their focus to the vanity metrics. So they go, oh yeah, but I don't care about a pretty photo. I don't care about having all these followers. I don't care about having lots of likes on my photo. But that's really not the focus at all. Vanity metrics, while they play their role, social media can do some really, really cool things. For example, I think I mentioned earlier, farming agricultural machinery. We have a client that probably has a couple of hundred followers on their social channels, but we sell big machines valued, they start at $30,000, and we sell many of them through Facebook ads.
Wow.
So there is so much opportunity. I think people just discount it because they see the surface level of it, which kind of follows on into my next point, which is people think social media marketing is easy, and it's not. So, when you're using it, because everyone uses it as a consumer, it's quite easy to use it. As soon as you try and market on it, it's a completely different landscape. And I think people think they can just jump on and do their marketing, and then they quickly realize, oh, this is actually quite hard. There is a lot of moving parts, which is why I need, my whole team to tap into one client. In terms of a business model, maybe not that profitable for me, because I have to have, 4 people, 5 people working on one client to make it work well.
Do you find the scamming world now is starting to interfere a little bit in this space? We're starting to see more. In the real estate world, it's become a biggie, especially in property management on Facebook Marketplace. Are you seeing that that's getting a little bit harder for you?
Yeah, I think
so many industries. Yeah.
Well, we actually had an experience a couple of years ago where we had our business manager, which is where we basically manage all of our clients' assets, hacked, and it was just purely done through a back-end leak, which Meta did accept fault for, but when you're trying to deal with a big player like that, like they don't care about local business, small local business, it's almost impossible to sort through scams, and that was a long process for us. It was huge, and that's a whole story in itself. But in terms of like confidence of people using the channels, like I completely understand, like there are all sorts of scams going on. Our rule is we have clients sending us stuff all the time. They'll get emails like that it clearly scams to us, but like how are they to know? So our rule of thumb is just like send it through, before you take any action on anything, because they're pretty crafty. They make it look pretty legit. But there is a lot of scamming, and it is quite hard to avoid.
Yeah, but it's still the age-old thing. If it feels too good to be true, it probably isn't. Yeah. Analytics is so important. I know when I sort of first ventured into the Facebook space, I found it so interesting because I was posting things at around 11 o'clock in the day, because that's when I finally sort of had caught up on the morning. I do make a cup of tea, do a bit of posting, and then it wasn't until someone said, well, have you actually looked at your data behind it? And I was like, what? And then went in and had a nosy and discovered people were on my site before 7 in the morning or after 8 at night, and no one during the day. So posting at 11, of course, you're lost in a feed at 8 o'clock at night. No one's going to see it. So then suddenly moving and scheduling posts to those times was life-changing for the engagement. Do you as a company spend quite a bit looking at that sort of analytics and making that recommendation?
Yes, I think data rules us. Like we are, slaves to our analytics. But it's important, I think. We've got quite a few clients that have been with us for over 5 years, and we're still learning from the data. That's the thing about social media is learning data, which means that like the data you've generated the last 14 days might be different to the next 14 days. So you have to be, so it's honestly a bit of a chore at times. Yeah.
Are you noticing any specific trends out there? Like are Kiwis on earlier, longer, less, on certain types of sites more?
It is all very specific to the client. So we have all sorts of software that we use. I think probably software might be my biggest overhead behind salaries, because it's important that we can extract the right data. But, we've got a client, we were posting their content at midnight. They do high-end wardrobes, and she was wondering why. And I said, well, that's when, our data tells us that your audience is mostly online then. Wow. And her engagement went up. So you just have to listen to the data and trust in the data. Otherwise, you just,
And it's good value for money when it comes to social media marketing, isn't it? I mean, my experience is, outside of this sort of world, I'm often promoting shows and theatres, and I can see a spike in ticket sales within the 2 hours of me boosting a post. And it's that obvious. And for $30 to $50, I will get probably 20, 30 ticket sales instantly. Whereas I could put a poster up on a bus or on the bus shelter for $1,000 a week, and I'm not sure if I'm getting that. I guess because it's a lot more tangible, because you can see people are clicking, you get all the data behind it. But do you find it a cost-effective way to market?
It is incredibly cost effective, especially if you get through what we call like a pilot campaign period. So this is my favorite topic, because the way that we work our social media is we talk about the fluff. So the fluff is all those vanity metrics. There is some necessary fluff and some fluff that is completely irrelevant. But things like followers and that sort of thing, it's not really our focus. We work with it in parallel, but our focus comes down to like ROAS, which is return on ad spend. So we're really great at campaigns. That is our sort of strength, which means that if we're running campaigns, we need to understand from a client, one, how much it costs them to sell that product with all of their overheads involved, then what their margin is, and then how much we need to spend to make them more money. And that's how we calculate our ROAS. And, as an example, we've got a client that has a restaurant. It's not exactly fine dining, but it's sort of just a step below. And their ROAS is probably 40 plus. That means that every dollar they spend, they get $40 out.
Wow.
So if we get them reservations, which we do, like for example, this month alone, we've got them 70 reservations from $3 per conversion.
Brilliant.
Which, you can't even get a starter for that.
And it's having all that data behind it, again, your favourite thing, because you can't get that data from some of the external advertising you might do.
No, exactly. And it's really cool. Like, we have a lot of regular meetings with our clients. We have monthly meetings with them, and that's when we get into the data and we sort of share with them, hey, like this creative didn't didn't work, but this one did. Like, let's turn this one off and spend all of our budget here, or we wanted to try something a bit different out of the box. Like, we've got some budget to spend because our ROAS is so good. Yeah, you can really sort of enjoy the process with the client, educate them along the journey, and essentially it's a fun outcome for us and for them.
Brilliant. How do you balance authenticity versus professionalism on social media?
This kind of comes back to what we were talking about on LinkedIn, actually. Definitely a bit of a blurred line at the moment, and I do agree, but I think authenticity is a big trend in social media at the moment, and I understand why, because it's a saturated space. You're trying to connect with people, but if you're in a profession where you have to hold a level of credibility, I think people can find that balance a bit tricky. I think the way you do it is through storytelling. I think any content strategy, doesn't matter what industry you're in, should have an element of storytelling to it. And that's how you can relate and connect to people, but still relate it back to your profession. Sometimes it really does depend. It's all subjective and it's all dependent on the client. But sometimes you can get a lot more out of telling a story rather than sharing, the lunch you had on LinkedIn that may not land and just not look super professional.
Now, many of our listeners are in the real estate space. So property managers, private salespeople for big brands, or doing things on their own. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen in the real estate space that's on social media?
Okay, I'm going to sound a little bit savage, and then I'm going to offer some advice.
Okay. Take it away.
I always say I know when spring has come around because in my feed there is all the real estate agents that I follow. They've taken the tile provided from head office because it's a spring clean tile, and they've all posted the same thing. And that's how I know spring has come. But I understand, most of us are owner-operators or are really busy in our roles, so we're just trying to get something out there. But I would say, real estate it's a busy space. There is a lot of options, so you have to be doing something different. You cannot be a cookie cutter, and I think that is the trap that a lot of agents fall into, is they just post the same tiles provided by head office and expect that that's going to work. And then a couple of other points to that. If I do have sort of a conversation with an agent, most of the time I say, cool, what are you wanting out of your social media? And I can guarantee they're going to say appraisals.
Right.
Which I completely understand. That has to be the greater outcome, but there is a lot that needs to be done before getting an appraisal. That's a lot for someone to sort of make that step. So you got to look at your customer journey and figure out and commit to what you're going to be doing in order to get to that point. That is your, somewhat of your conversion point. So how are you going to build a community around your brand? How are you going to connect with people, and how are you going to build your credibility? Most of the time it's those agents doing something different that are doing that really well on social media, and most of the time they are using video. Right.
It's their storytelling again, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think video, whilst it is a bit of a hassle, it's the easiest way to get your personality across and connect with someone in a newsfeed.
If you ever want to laugh, listeners, jump on YouTube and type the world's worst real estate adverts, and they're all social media posts, mostly out of America, I might add, but very hilarious. My favourite is an agent trying to show the world's smallest apartment, and he's really excited, but the tenants or the current occupants are obviously inside, and they're hiding behind curtains, and you can see 2 feet out of one curtain, and then in the next room they're behind the bench, sort of crouched down into a ball. It's absolutely hilarious. But yeah, worth a laugh. What's one simple thing agents can do today to improve their social media? They're going to stop listening to us shortly, jump on their social media. What's one thing they could do?
One thing they can do, there's many things that they could be doing, but I think one thing they could do is commit to a frequency. So I think a lot of agents will use social media when they have a listing and then suddenly go a bit quiet.
Yep.
Yeah. So committing to a frequency and a content strategy is going to be the best thing that you can do. And when I say content strategy, it sounds really complex, but it doesn't need to be. Just having, even if your frequency is once per week, that is fine. But just showing up and continuing to do so is going to do a lot for your brand.
Yeah. And checking those posts that you've got up there, deleting some sometimes too. We don't clean out enough, do we?
Yeah, no.
Like if it was a website, we update our website maybe once or twice a year and we go, we'll get rid of that photo and that event doesn't need to be there. Social media, if people do want to scroll through and check your storytelling, sometimes there's good things to show from your past, but also some things actually you could just remove that now. How often should we clean up, do you think?
It's a good question because I feel like with a lot of our clients, we like to hold the engagement on their profile too. So you don't want to clean out.
Fair enough.
But if you feel like it's misaligned with your brand, like say every quarter, you might want to do some housekeeping on your profile and you go, oh, actually that I can't even.
Especially if you're perhaps promoting an event or something that's passed.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Although I think when someone lands on your profile, there are people that have a browse. Like some of those things can be good to see. But if you are shuddering when you're reading a post of yours and you're truly getting the ick, then clear it out.
Love it. Don't post too many photos of your team drinking. I can remember telling one group that, that your audience needed to see you guys a little bit more social and engaging with the community. So they took that to the extreme and posted their Friday night drinks. Unfortunately, when you talk about engagement and frequency, they didn't post any other time during the week. So then I came back about 10 weeks later and I said, let's just look at your social media. And every single post was just Friday night drinks. So it looks like the alcoholics real estate group. So it's quite interesting. You got to mix it up. So tell us about Done By. If a company comes to you, how will you sort of set them up and guide them through the process?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to having a really good conversation to begin with, and us understanding who you are or who your brand is. So that's important for us to understand because that'll guide, I guess, the path we take. But what comes from that conversation is really understanding what makes you different. Because that is our nucleus, like that is our pillar that we market from. What makes you different? Why would someone come to you over someone else? And what your USPs are.
Okay.
Then from there, we would set up a package. So it's difficult for us to put people into set packages. Typically, they're quite custom, and that could look like a few things. It could be, a monthly retainer package. It could be a project where you dip your toes in. A lot of our clients actually start with a sort of pilot campaign where we have one key objective that we run for, say, 3 months, and then we review and go, cool, is this worth your investment? Which I think is important. Or we go, actually, you can definitely do this yourself. It makes more sense for you to do this yourself. We'll do a sort of 10-week capability program with you. So it looks like different things. But I think what's important is there are always quick wins on social media. Definitely. So we like to focus on the quick wins first and have those longer term goals. Everyone's got a longer term outcome. But get the quick wins under your belt because then you're like, right, this is actually working for me. I'm seeing value. And that there's many quick wins, but it's based on your business or brand. And then work towards a greater outcome, whatever that might be.
You talked a bit in this interview about the brand, your client's brand. First of all, what is sort of the range of fields that your company works with?
Gosh, a real range. I've done that on purpose because I feel like during COVID, it was an interesting time, and I knew of some agencies that had, they just took care of the marketing for tourism companies or just hospitality companies, and when they were struggling, they lost their business. So we've got a real diverse range of clients. We've got musicians, we've got chefs, we have a few restaurants and like quick service restaurants. We have a lot of people in the construction space, like gardening, e-commerce. Like there is a real range of people we work with.
That's cool. You mentioned before the importance of getting to know their brand. How does that sort of filter then through to what you do in your marketing?
Yeah, there's a knack for that, and I think there's a process and a knack, and I think finding that sort of middle space is important. But I would say when we onboard a client, there's always going to be teething issues, but our onboarding phase probably stretches over 3 months, to be honest.
Right. You've got to get to know them. Yeah.
You really have to get to know them. We do something called a bridging content calendar. That is their first content calendar that they can see how we would create their sort of captions and creative on their behalf, and they can rip in. Like we give them full permission, like rip in, tell us what's terrible about it, what you love about it. So it's just about being open to feedback. To be honest, the whole service is a big feedback loop. But it's a collaborative space. Like we talk to our clients almost daily on WhatsApp. We need to know what's happening in their world. Like we'll take anything for content. So it's a collaborative.
It takes a lifetime to build a good brand, but only a minute to ruin it with the wrong social media post or a bad review. How do you advise your clients on, what to do when something goes wrong in the social media space?
Yeah, you've really got to tackle it head on. I think the worst thing you can do is if you get a bad review or something's landed the wrong way, if you try and delete it or cover it up or just not reply, it's going to be the worst thing for your brand. There's always a way that you can respond, and 9 times out of 10, people really appreciate a genuine response. And if it stays on there and someone sees your response, like maybe another customer, and then they've seen that the person is continuing to be unreasonable, usually it doesn't look bad on your part. But I say with any kind of PR or review nightmare, tackle it head on and respond as soon as possible.
Brilliant. All right, some quick fire questions for our last 4 or 5 minutes now. Why do you think people fear social media?
I think it's kind of what we were just talking about. It can go so wrong so quickly, but also you're putting yourself out there, and I always talk about ghost followers. You don't remember or you don't think about your ghost followers. So, if you get a comment, the people that comment typically might be the people that are quite negative, or they want to have their opinion and maybe it's not so nice. But most of the time, everyone has ghost followers, and they're the people that actually really enjoy your content. They just don't really engage. And I think if you look at yourself or how you scroll your own feed, I know that I've got people I've been following for many years and I love their stuff, and I don't think I've ever commented, which is terrible by me. But don't forget your ghost followers.
You've pinched my next question, because I was going to say trolls, ghosts and algorithms, what are they? But you've covered the ghosts. It's the quiet person just looking, not necessarily responding, but still technically engaging. What are the trolls?
The trolls are haters, but we try not to worry about the trolls. They're always going to be there.
The keyboard warriors.
The keyboard warriors, interestingly, we've been using keyboard warriors to our advantage. We've had a lot of clients that we've done flipped campaigns for. So we've screenshotted a review and then flipped it into their USP, and it's worked really, really well.
Love it. And for people listening that don't know what an algorithm is, how would you describe that?
Oh, that could be a whole 45 minutes in itself. But an algorithm is basically how your feed is presented to you. An algorithm is based on a particular channel and then what you interact with and engage with, therefore what you're fed. And I think everyone will notice, if you're Googling something, like you want a chocolate chip cookie, all of a sudden you'll see them pop up in your feed. That's your algorithm working.
I tested that once with my daughter, who did not believe that the phones were listening to us. So for 24 hours, we just talked about buying a red Ferrari. Had to be a red Ferrari, no other colour but a red. Must need to be a red Ferrari. We did this for 24 hours. My 14-year-old thought I was completely nuts. Guess what she got in her feed and I got in my feed the next day? Auckland Motors selling red Ferraris all through our advertising, and it was just 24 hours of talking to our phones. What was interesting is the whole time we were doing it, she actually was full of the flu and was coughing, sneezing, etc. So every second advert was for cough medicine.
Wow.
So I thought that really said it.
It is. I actually did a little project once, and this sounds really creepy when I say it out loud, but I wanted to see how powerful social media ads were. So I targeted down to attributions, radius, as tight as I could target my friend. And I put her face on the ad and she saw it in her feed. She knew it was me immediately, but it worked. And
wow, that is amazing. Where would you like to see your company in 5 years' time?
Well, I'm 6 years in now. I feel like the first 6 years are carnage. So in 5 years' time, we're looking to stay small and mighty. We like to work in potency. So clients that want to grow, we want to grow alongside them. So I don't want to be the biggest agency, but I want to be known for the really, really good work we do.
Nice.
We do that already, but I just think we want to be, we want that to be our legacy. So I'm not looking to grow hugely. My team are awesome. So just staying really small and mighty.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been great chatting. Time has gone by. I've still got more questions, so that means you have to come back again. How can people reach out and find you if they want to get a quote from you to look after their social media? Yep,
so Done By Agency on all social channels and doneby.co.nz.
Fantastic. Now, a little bit weird because you do our marketing, so you realise now you've got to splice up this show and market yourself.
Yeah, I don't even want to listen to my own voice.
I know. It's going to be quite weird, but, people will be looking at our posts more so. This is like your advert for the week. I really enjoyed talking, and thanks for bringing up Pinterest and Google Business. I haven't had that on my radar when I talk social media. Yeah. Have a fabulous week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Next week, we have Rachel in to chat all about careers in real estate, both sales and property management. So if you're thinking of a career change, tune in next week. Thanks, Olivia. Go and check out Done By. Have a fabulous week. Drive safe. Catch you next week.